What's up everyone, Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic, and I have a collection update for you. This is the 50th one of these I've done, so pretty cool that I've stuck to it for this long, and I plan on doing it way more because I don't see me not buying music as a thing. I'm definitely going to keep buying music because this is something I absolutely love. So let's get right into this because this is a pretty big stack. Funeralopolis of Death and of Prevailing Chaos. This is a reissue of their 2010 demo and 2013 EP on Memento Mori Records. And this is definitely very much the origins of their sound, especially the demo. The demo is very rough. In fact, I think the drums are almost inaudible on it, and it's just really, really raw sounding. And granted, they got their name from Electric Wizard. They have a song called Funeralopolis, in case you didn't know. And I think they kind of wanted that guitar tone, and it really didn't work out for them. It just comes across as really muddy. Now, their 2013 EP sounds great. I think the recording is way, way better. Much more attention was placed on production on that one. It still comes off raw, but very clear sounding. You can make out all the instrumentation, and really excellent songwriting on there. Again, these guys are labeled as Death Doom, but you only hear kind of parts of that, because honestly, and especially the stuff on the EP, it is very much just old school death metal. Really good stuff. I thoroughly enjoy this band. I'm definitely a fan now. I like their new full length, obviously a bit more than this, but this is still really good, especially the EP on here. I thought that was really good. Definitely check this band out. Pretty solid death doom, death metal, what have you. Draw your own conclusions when you listen to it. Check it out. Inoculation, Pure Cosmic Dread. Now, this is another carryover from the last collection update because I had Funeralopolis on there and I also had Inoculation. They had a 2-song EP. This is the full length that came out before it, and this is also amazing. These guys play pretty much old school death metal, but it is like kind of old school technical death metal, like Gorguts, Death, Atheist. There is a lot of just great songwriting dynamics all over this. I love the alternating vocals between highs and lows. The production is very well done, but still very raw. It still kind of sounds like it has a 90s style production, but it is definitely separated very well. The mix is really good. For technical metal, I think the songs are kind of short on this. I was really surprised with that. Not that they're bad at all. I think actually every song here was really killer. The longest song on here is only 4 minutes, and generally when you enter like more technical realms, especially like older tech death, you get some longer songs. But this is just pretty much straight up all about the riffs and intensity, and man, does this have some killer songwriting. These guys are from Cleveland, Ohio, so hopefully I'll get a chance to see them. And this is only a 3-piece, and these guys absolutely just rule, flat out. If you didn't get a chance to check out that EP I mentioned in the last collection update, check out this full length too. Both of them are absolutely killer. I have become a big fan of this band for sure. Definitely check this out. 16, Lifespan of a Moth. Still need to get the new one. It's on my list, but I saw this one and I didn't own it, and I decided to pick it up, and this is awesome sludge metal. Now, I have the reissues of their earlier stuff that came out on Relapse Records as well. This is still really good. These guys are pretty much straight up sludge metal, but there's a lot of hardcore elements to it, and I'd even say occasionally like a thrashy break here and there. It kind of reminds me if Crowbar and Unsane pretty much sort of melded their sounds and just went all out. This is their 8th full length, and apparently there's a lot of stuff I need to pick up on because I think I only have 3 other ones, all of which are really good. Honestly, the only thing I didn't care for on this were the fact that the vocals almost always have like a static-like distortion on them, which is cool periodically if you break it up, but I would have liked to have heard they did its natural growl in this. But overall, this is just absolutely kick-ass sludge metal, and if you're into that sort of thing, definitely check this out. Ritual Dictates, Given to Despair. Now, this is a collaborative effort between Ash Pearson and Justin Hagberg, both of which are formerly of 3 Inches of Blood, which is a band, unfortunately, I never really got into. In fact, I think I saw them at Ozfest, and I just kind of moseyed on someplace else because I really wasn't feeling it. But this is their death metal project between the two of them, in between working with their various bands. Ash Pearson's still in Revocation right now, and I believe Justin Hagberg has his own doom metal or stone metal project that he's in right now. But this is, I guess, straight up death metal. Like, for the most part it is. Sometimes it's punk, sometimes it's thrash, sometimes there's some weird cleans thrown in. Sometimes they're sort of doing a death metal song and then take a break that sounds a lot like the Helicopters in between. It's really kind of uneven, like it's all over the place, and not necessarily in the best way. Sometimes the clean vocals sound really auto-tuned, and I'm not a big fan of that. And the production, I don't know, it sounds kind of odd. Sometimes the guitars sound a little twangy on this. It just screamed like a thing that they just wanted to get together as buddies and just do some, recording and have some fun with it. But overall, as like an album, this doesn't necessarily gel particularly well. There are some cool moments on it for sure, but overall, this was just kind of an uneven album. Either way, definitely check it out, form your own opinion. That's just mine. Who knows, you might really dig it. Check it out. Taphos Demo 2016, EP 2017. That's actually the title on this. Now, this is a reissue through Blood Harvest of their first demo and their first EP. And this is a straight-up old-school death metal band from Copenhagen, and really solid stuff. Even the demo is actually pretty well done. It's still very raw, and I think the vocals need to come up just a little bit. But overall, it sounds pretty good. And the EP is definitely mastered and mixed much better. Definitely captures that old-school death metal sound. There's definitely a lot of, incantation in there, death, some obituary-type grooves. Really solid stuff. I'm definitely interested in checking out more stuff by them. I believe they have a full length, and it looks like I'm going to have to go check that out as well. You can definitely tell in the EP, too, that they definitely wanted some more hooks and more dynamic moments, because there's definitely some more standout melodies on them. Either way, definitely check this out. This was a really solid listen. Naga Inanimate. This is the second EP from this Italian sludge doom metal band, almost kind of post-metal in some spots, mostly sludge, though. This came out on Everlasting Spew, our good buddies there, and this is fantastic. This is very atmospheric, just gnarly sounding. It has all that sort of ambience you'd expect from a band like Neurosis, but it just brings in these bone-crunching riffs that are just so massive on here. And I was surprised, too, that this being an EP, this is over 30 minutes long. There's a lot of material in here for an EP. And there are some actual, up-tempo moments on here. This doesn't stay in that slow, sludgy, doomy pocket. It actually has some nice groovy headbangers in some spots. Absolutely love the guitar tone on here. The production here is actually really good. They really capture that dense, murky atmosphere really well. And something that definitely contributes to that atmosphere are the vocals. They are very tortured and anguished. This really is kind of a cathartic listen, and I really, really enjoy that. I'm definitely looking for more by this band. Definitely check this album out. It's awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And, well, don't just take my word for it. Check out the links in the description below, because there'll be links for all that stuff. But yeah, check this out. Disengage, Teeth, Heart, and Tail. And this came out in 1997. This is an alternative metal band from Cleveland. And I actually had two of their other releases, and I've actually gone back to them here recently, and they were pretty good. The vocals are kind of an acquired taste, but this was their first album, and this is definitely kind of in that realm of Helmet or early Tool, where it was heavy, but you really weren't necessarily sure you would call it flat out metal, so it kind of got that alternative metal sort of moniker on it. Solid riffs, solid songwriting in here. Again, the vocals are a bit of an acquired taste. They're kind of a little whiny, maybe a little nasally, I guess. It has a bit of a stoner metal feel to it, where the kind of overall vibe, despite the heavier moments, is still kind of very chill and laid back. Pretty solid listen. I definitely recommend a bit of their later stuff more than this, but I still think this was a really good listen. And if you're into more alternative metal sounds and so on, definitely check it out. It's a good listen. Labyrinth Entrance, Monumental Bitterness. This is a one-man black metal project that came out on Gods of War Productions, and I believe the gentleman that did all the work here is also in a death metal project as well. I can't remember the name of it, but this is, I wouldn't necessarily call it entirely black metal. It's definitely a little bit on the black and death metal side. In fact, a lot of this reminded me of Behemoth, but very atmospheric. Sometimes they labor it too much, and I tell you which track, but they're all called Canto, and I think it was Canto 2. It goes from Canto 0 to Canto 5, so yeah, there are 6 tracks on here, but there's a lot of interesting songwriting here, and he did really try to craft some different songs. Some of these, again, kind of take on too much atmosphere and not enough riffs. There's a part in here in that Canto 2 song where it's just a sort of wall of dissonant noise and squealing, and then this kind of dull riff underneath, and it really didn't do much for me. But there are songs in there that are absolutely just gigantic in sound and really have some really cool melodic hooks. There are some odd robotic vocals on here, like him singing through a filter, which I thought was odd. And there's some spots in here where I really thought they kind of sounded like Hate Eternal, granted, like a blackened version of Hate Eternal. Pretty solid stuff. Lots of interesting songwriting here, and I'm kind of curious if this dude picks up this project again. This came out in 2017, so it's been a while. I mean, granted, he might be involved in a lot of other projects, but I'd like to hear more from this. This was pretty good. Lopan, Subtle. Turns out I did not know that Lopan released an album last year, and amidst all the other stuff I was buying. This is a stoner rock, stoner metal band from Columbus, Ohio. So, I usually pay attention to what's going on in my own state. Slipped up this time. But this is different for them, especially in terms of the production. It's way more, I guess you could say, polished or just better produced. It doesn't have like the old stoner rock feel of their earlier albums. This feels way more like sort of modern rock production, but it's still very much in that stoner rock, blues rock sort of feel. Really good hooks in here. I've always been a fan of their vocalist. I believe his name's Jeff Martin. And again, when you look at this guy, you don't think that voice comes from him. It seems like it'd be low and gravelly. But this guy has a really, really interesting range. Like, for a guy that looks the way he does, it just doesn't seem like it matches. But there's a lot of cool hooks in here, a lot of great, just straight-up rock songs. And honestly, I haven't found a lot of great straight-up rock albums here lately, so this was kind of a refresher. Towards the end, it definitely gets back more to their stoner metal roots. But for the most part, this is just kind of straightforward riff rock with a nice bluesy touch to it. But flat out, if you're looking for just something that is in the vein of Clutch, but maybe a little bit heavier with some like kind of Mastodon-like spots, definitely check this out. This was a pretty solid listen. Grond, Worship the Kraken. I had actually jammed this album, I think, a year or two ago on YouTube, and I just didn't get around to picking it up. This came out on Extreme Music in 2016, and this is a straight-up old-school death metal band from Russia with a lot of Lovecraftian worship, and man, do they have, like, a great sound overall, like, kind of parts of, like, more European acts, namely Swedish ones, like Grave and Bloodbath, but mix that with, like, Autopsy and, like, Morbid Angel, especially the Stephen Tucker one, because the vocals are definitely more of the Steve Tucker sort of vocals. And, of course, some nice Bolt Thrower groove in there, which we've been listening to a lot of Bolt Thrower lately, so that groove is very familiar. Love the overall feel of this album. I think the vocals are absolutely exceptional in here. This guy has a great delivery. Tons of great riffs, great leads. I mean, it's pretty much all the hallmarks of really good old-school death metal, granted in a new band. Definitely going to be checking out more from this band for sure. Definitely check out Grond. These guys were a good time. Okay, we got a pair from Cursed, simply titled 1 and 2. These guys were a Canadian hardcore / sludge metal / crust punk band, and it's pretty much an amalgamation of all those sounds kind of thrown in together. Really isn't much of a difference between these two albums in terms of the overall feel. It's very much a mix of all those styles. I said, like, most of the time you're getting straight ahead hardcore, crust punk, with just lots of nasty, sludgy riffs, and then occasionally you get some more slower, longer songs that are definitely more slightly sludge metal. Now, 1, I think, has more of those moments than 2, but either one of these are absolutely killer. It is just non-stop energy, and man, it is just reckless. This one came out on Death Wish, this one was out on Goodfellow. I have the third one, and they're pretty much defunct now. I believe they're all split up into a litany of different bands. But if you happen to find these are both really good. If you're just looking for some nasty hardcore, definitely check this out. Fuck the Facts, Backstabber, Etiquette. This came out on Grind It Records, and this is the band's 5th full-length. And man, I do not like the production on this. This might have the single clickiest, almost invisible, minus that click, bass drum I've heard on any album. This is definitely not well recorded. Like, the guitars are muddy, the vocals sound fine, the snare has that terrible plunk to it that I don't like. This is pretty much everything I don't like about a bad mix on one album. Musically, it's pretty good. It's kind of that spastic style of grindcore that you'd hear in, like, Pig Destroyer or Cephalic Carnage, but mixed with, like, little bits of, like, death grind or even, like, some slam riffs occasionally. And when you get that plunky snare, you might as well do that, I guess. Now, a cool thing with those last two, this one and the next two, is when I went to the record store, I was looking around the metal section, and I forgot to check out their punk section, and it turns out they keep all their grindcore and hardcore and, like, crust punk all in the punk section versus the metal section, where generally, in most stores, they kind of just throw it all in one area. So there were some untapped resources I found, and this was one of them. I like this band. I like their later releases. I think Disgorge Mexico is absolutely killer album. But this one, I mean, mostly it's the mix that really kills it. But I'm still excited to see them at Maryland Death Fest next year. I can't wait for shows again. Oh my god, I miss them. But in terms of recommendations for this band, I would definitely say look at some of their later stuff and not so much their earlier stuff unless they choose to like remaster or re-record it, because man, there's so much lost in this mix. Still, check it out. Don't just take my word for it. Integrity, Those Who Fear Tomorrow. And this is the 15th anniversary edition of this. This was their debut album in 1991. This came out in 2006 on Fractured Transmitter. Now, I've been an Integrity fan for years, actually. I remember hearing them on a Victory Records compilation somewhere in like 96. So I was definitely stoked to find this one, because this is pretty much their straight up old school hardcore days. Later on, they started mixing in like different elements, like black metal, sludge metal, even like a tinge of industrial in some albums. But this was them pretty much at their purest hardcore selves. Vocally, it's always been kind of an issue, especially when he tries to be more tuneful, but on this one, he is playing to his strengths, and his strengths are pure hardcore in this. I love this album. It is riffy as hell. It's very metallic. There's still some lead work on there. Great breakdowns. This just feels empowering, which is exactly what hardcore should feel like. Definitely check this out. This is pretty much a hardcore classic, at least in my opinion it is, and it's a damn good time. Phobia, Serenity Through Pain. This is the band's second album, came out on Death Vomit Records. This is a straight-up grindcore band from California. They've been around since, I believe, 1990, and this came out in 2001, which is kind of odd, this being their second album, but I guess there were a lot of demos and splits and EPs and such before that. This is pretty good. I was really shocked at the production, though. The production definitely screams more old-school death metal. It doesn't really have, like, that kind of over-the-top grind. It really reminds me of, like, Terrorizer or early Napalm Death. The guitars are a little bit murkier, and there's a lot of like groovy breakdowns on here too, which scream more death metal, I think. And I've never really considered these guys death grind in any sense. It's mostly just straight up grindcore. I do like the fact that they sampled the movie The Warriors on here, which I thought was pretty cool when that popped up. I forget which track it was, but it was like, oh yeah, I know that movie. And the fact that this opens up with an acoustic number, which is deceptively softer, which I thought, you know, was pretty cool, because you really don't hear that on grindcore albums as much. It's mostly like a thrash metal thing or a death metal thing. Grindcore generally, you know, you get like some samples of like whatever, something exploding, someone being tortured, something like that. And then boom, you're just getting destroyed by a minute and a half song. This was kind of different. I definitely dug this. I need some more Phobia apparently, because I'm still missing a bunch of albums, so don't be surprised if they pop up in here again. Definitely check them out. Phobia rules. Lifeless Godconstruct. This band's second album, came out on FDA Records, and they are a German death metal band that sound a lot like a Swedish death metal band, which seems to be kind of a thing. Bands like Revel in Flesh and Flesh Crawl, which their frontman pops up on this because it's kind of a closely knit thing, I guess. Really solid stuff, though. I mean, as close to their influence as they play, it's really, really well executed, and there's a lot of really cool, flashy songwriting on here. Cool, groovy breakdowns, lots of melody, too. Like, this has some really great melodic hooks throughout. And I really dig the production overall. Like, it really captures that 90s Swedish death metal sound. I particularly love the opening riff on The Truth Concealed. That is one of the best moments on this entire album, at least in my opinion. It just has a great hook to it. Definitely check this band out. I need to get more of their stuff. Actually, I think I just need their last one, because I have their first one, which was pretty good as well. Either way, definitely check them out. Solid death metal. Resurgency, False Enlightenment. This is their 2012 debut full-length, and man, is this an absolute banger. I loved pretty much every track on here. This sounded like it came out of Florida during the 1990s. Now, this came out of Greece in 2012, and man, this is just awesome. Fierce, like, Deicide sounds in a lot of this. And I only wish Deicide made albums of this quality now. The last one was kind of meh. These guys are absolutely awesome. I have a follow-up to this, which I thought was good. I think this one is much better. This is just a huge sound overall. Tons of catchy riffs, great lead work, drum work's fantastic. They're pretty much firing all cylinders on this. I am definitely a fan of them 100% now after hearing this. Check it out. And finally we have Zombiefication, Midnight Stench. Now, this is their 2010 debut. This is reissued on Osmos Records, and this is a two-man Mexican death metal act. Now, it's mostly death metal. Sometimes you get some more thrashy stuff. Occasionally you get some punky stuff. And there are some black metal moments, but for the most part, again, death metal. It's pretty decent. I think the vocals are a bit too over the top, and I love over the top vocals. I mean, I love Obituary, and John Tardy is as over the top as they get. But sometimes they just seem just a bit much, and they don't really change enough. Like, occasionally you get like a deeper growl in there, which might be the other member, other than the frontman who's singing, but I'm really not sure. And sometimes the songwriting kind of just takes some knee-jerk turns too much. Now, I have their other two albums, which I think got a little bit better, but I wanted to see what their debut was like, and it's good. It's got some faults, but it's still good. Either way, check them out. This was still a really fun listen. So that knocks out 50 of these, technically, which has been really cool. And thank you guys for, all the views and support and all that. And hopefully I'm recommending some cool music for you guys and you're getting into this stuff. And just remember, there are always links down below in the description to all the music, so definitely form your own opinions and all that stuff. So, of course, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. Thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you later.